Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Newsline at Noon, unable to agree on when to restart operations at the Kaesong Industrial Complex. The two Korea's new management committee will try to narrow their differences ahead of a follow-up meeting next week. Parliament is expected to approve the arrest of leftist lawmaker Lee Seok-ki as early as Wednesday. He is accused of organising a rebellious group benefiting North Korea. Plus, punitive military action against Syria could be on the horizon, with France joining the US in pointing the finger at the Assad regime for last month's deadly chemical attack near Damascus. These stories and more on Newsline at Noon.
Where's the best place for bibimbap?
Les Jeux Olympiques d'hiver se dérouleront-ils à Pyeongchang?
هل أنتم حقاً سابع أكبر مصدر في العالم؟
この歌手は誰ですか？你好，最近哪部电视剧的人气最旺？
Korea is attracting interest from around the world. The more you know, the more you want to know. Dynamic Korea.
Thanks for joining us. You're watching Newsline at Noon. I'm Choi Yuson in Seoul.
Very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Brew. And we kick off this newscast at this lunchtime with the latest inter-Korean talks at the North Korean border town of Kaesong. At the inaugural meeting of the Joint Committee overseeing management of their shuttered Kaesong factory park, the two Koreas fell short of setting a date to resume business operations.
They, however, agreed to continue negotiations in the coming days. Our Oh Jin-ju has this report.
The two Koreas on Monday have failed to agree on when to resume operations at the Kaesong Industrial Complex in their first meeting of a joint committee set up for better management of the business park. Instead, the two sides decided to hold the committee's second meeting next Tuesday on the 10th to settle a date to resume business at the complex. The issue is what dragged the meeting out, which lasted for more than 12 hours. While the North wants business at the park to restart as soon as possible, South Korea has taken a rather cautious stance. A government official in Seoul explained that the South Korean government wants to set up regulatory measures and restore the military hotline in the West Sea before the resumption of operations to prevent another abrupt shutdown of the complex in the future. The two Koreas promised to carry on with discussions within the four divisions set up under the committee before the next committee meeting to come up with ways to strengthen business regulations and normalize the complex. The divisions of investment protection and global competitiveness are scheduled to meet on Wednesday, while the divisions in charge of the entry and exit of South Korean workers and communications will meet on Thursday. Experts predict should talks within these divisions go well, the two Koreas will likely be able to agree on a specific date to restart operations at the park in their next committee meeting. The two sides will also continue negotiations on how to compensate the losses of South Korean companies during the sudden closure of the complex earlier this year. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News.
Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says he hopes to see talks on ending North Korea's nuclear ambitions resume in the near future. Seoul-based Yonhap News reports the minister at a lecture in Moscow then said Russia will continue making efforts to revive the six-party disarmament talks. The multilateral talks involving the two Koreas, the US, China, Russia, and Japan has been stalled since late 2008. Lavrov noted Pyongyang has been sending signals that it is ready to follow through on the agreements made by the six parties in 2005, stressing this could soon open the path to the talk resuming. The minister also made it clear that Russia opposes North Korea's unilateral declaration as a nuclear state. At the nation's parliament, lawmakers who began deliberating the arrest of leftist lawmaker Lee Seok-ki over allegations he had plotted to topple the government are expected to put the matter to a vote on Wednesday. Our Han Da-eun has more.
The ongoing criminal probe surrounding leftist lawmaker Lee Seok-ki took center stage on the opening day of the National Assembly's 100-day regular session. During the first plenary session on Monday, lawmakers read a bill requesting approval for Lee's arrest and officially launched deliberation procedures over the matter. Yi, a member of the Unified Progressive Party and allegedly pro-North Korea, has thrown Korea's political arena into a new turmoil for allegedly plotting to stage a rebellion against the current government. According to current law, a bill can be put to a vote between 24 and 72 hours after being read at a plenary session. Both the ruling and opposition parties look set to hold the vote on Wednesday after spending Tuesday holding internal discussions. But with the main opposition Democratic Party reportedly agreeing to go along with the arrest bill, it is highly likely to gain parliamentary approval. If the bill does pass, it'll be submitted to the court after being reviewed by the Justice Ministry and the prosecutor's office. The far-left lawmaker has been accused of conspiring with members of a secret organization called the Revolutionary Organization, or RO, in May to blow up major infrastructure in the nation, such as communication centers and oil storage tanks, police stations, and armories. A tape recording obtained by the nation's spy agency reportedly has E and RO members discussing detailed ways to sabotage the South Korean government and U.S. troops in the event of an inter-Korean war. E still denies the charges against him. 한다은, Arirang News.
The Korean government recently announced that a substitute holiday system will go into effect later this year for all government agencies. Despite opposition from business groups, public opinion is strongly in favour of the extra holidays. Economic research shows it will also provide a boost to the nation's tourism industry. Paul Lee reports.
The substitute holiday system has been a controversial issue among Korean lawmakers since its proposal nearly 4 years ago by the Culture and Tourism Ministry. Substitute holidays provide an extra day off for workers when a holiday falls on a weekend. The majority of citizens, however, say that substitute holidays are long overdue in Korea's overworked society. A national survey by the Korea Culture and Tourism Institute found that over half of respondents were in favor of the extra holiday system due to a lack of time off for leisure activities. That sentiment was followed by those stating health problems and economic reasons to implement the standard. Private research firms are also in agreement. A public survey by the Hyundai Research Institute showed that 70% of respondents said they would take advantage of the extra days off to go on vacation within Korea. In addition, the institute says the economic impacts of the substitute holiday system would be considerable. The average of 3 extra days off a year would translate to approximately $2.1 billion in domestic travel and leisure spending. The Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism has strongly promoted substitute holidays as a way to stimulate the economy and job creation, as well as improve the standard of living in Korea.
If we intend to further develop and create a more advanced society, we must share a greater recognition for leisure and cultural values. If we are able to reach that point, then I think we'll be able to achieve that development of our society.
Business circles are opposed to substitute holidays, citing lower productivity and growing financial burdens. But how much more can we ask from the nation's workforce? People in Korea already work nearly 300 more hours per year compared to their average counterparts in the OECD. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Former Korean President Roh Tae-woo will soon pay off all of the fines for corruption charges. Roh's former in-law, Shim Myung-soo, returned about $7.3 million to the state coffers on Monday, and his brother, Roh Jae-woo, has agreed to pay the remaining $13.7 million by Wednesday. Once that payment is made, it would complete the former president's payoff in a total of 16 years. Roh Tae-woo, who led the country from 1988 to 1993, insisted the two shoulder the bill since he had entrusted them with his slush funds. In the latest developments surrounding a probe into another former president, John Doo-hwan's unpaid fines and hidden illegal assets, prosecutors summoned Chun's second eldest son, Jae-yong, Tuesday morning. This is the first time one of the ex-president's children is being questioned under suspicion of laundering funds amassed illegally during John's presidency.
For your fill of Korean and international news. Join Chae Yu-sun and Mark Broom every weekday at lunchtime. Newsline at Noon.
Plenary session this Wednesday and vote on the government restructuring bills.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has warned that any military strike on his country will result in war across the Middle East. The dire warning came as France followed the U.S. in saying it has concrete proof that the Assad regime carried out last month's devastating chemical weapons attack. Our Nyad reports.
The French intelligence service has drafted a 9-page report in which it says Syrian President Bashar al-Assad personally ordered last month's, quote, massive and coordinated chemical attack that killed hundreds. Prime Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault presented the report to French ministers and heads of parliamentary groups at an emergency meeting on Syria on Monday. Ayrault spoke of the need to back military action against the Syrian government.
President Hollande is working on persuading and bringing together a coalition as quickly as possible.
In an interview with French newspaper Le Figaro, President Assad said that if France does take part in foreign strikes against Syria, he will retaliate. Assad said, quote, if the policies of the French state are hostile to the Syrian people, the state will be their enemy, and said France will have to face the consequences. He added that military intervention could set off a regional war and described the Middle East as a tinderbox that would explode if any attack were launched. Despite the most dire warning yet, Western nations continue to ramp up their rhetoric against the Syrian regime. NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen said he has seen evidence that Syrian authorities used chemical weapons, adding it would send a dangerous signal to dictators if the world did not respond firmly. Over in Washington, Congress is set to vote next week on President Obama's proposal to authorize airstrikes against Syria. Senator John McCain said a vote against would be disastrous.
A rejection of that, a vote against that resolution by Congress, I think, would be catastrophic because it would undermine the credibility of the United States of America and the President of the United States. None of us want that.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has proposed sending a group of Russian lawmakers to the United States to discuss the situation with members of Congress and to persuade them to take a balanced stance on the issue before the vote next week. Nyad, Arirang News.
Over in Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood could be starting to buckle after a judicial panel was formed Monday to challenge the movement's legal status. The move is the latest by the army-backed interim government to crack down on supporters of ousted President Mohamed Morsi. Kim Ji-yeon has the latest.
Egypt's interim government has set up a judicial panel to challenge the legal standing of the Muslim Brotherhood. The panel advised the court to dissolve the Brotherhood's standing as an NGO since the movement was registered and licensed by Mohamed Morsi during its term as president. Although the ruling by the judicial panel is non-binding, it could reduce the organization to nothing more than a clandestine movement. But it would not be enough to ban the formal political party in which the Muslim Brotherhood operates, which goes by the Freedom and Justice Party.
Nasser had once dissolved it and thought they were finished, but all they did was join the International Muslim Brotherhood organization, which then supported its Egyptian wing. If they're dissolved, then they'll just work in secret.
This is just the latest step in the interim government's efforts to crush Morsi's movement to clear the way for fresh parliamentary and presidential elections. Authorities arrested 14 Brotherhood members, including the group's top leaders for inciting violence or murder last December. Ousted President Morsi himself faces trial on the same charges. The panel recommendation came as a bomb exploded Monday at a police station in Cairo, injuring at least 2 people. And a fresh wave of mass protests by the Brotherhood is warned to follow suit to demonstrate the instability of the interim government. At least 900 people have been killed since Morsi was overthrown in July. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
The wildfire that erupted 2 weeks ago, scorching hundreds of thousands of acres of forest in California, has subsided, although a complete containment of the blaze may still be weeks away. Our Sun Jung-in brings us the latest on the progress of the fire.
U.S. firefighters are still battling the massive fire that has ripped through a stretch of Yosemite National Park. With the help of over 5,000 crews deployed to tackle the blaze, firefighters made major gains overnight. Officials said early Monday that the fire that erupted on August 17th was now 60% contained, a 15% increase from the day before. However, fire analysts estimate that it could still take until September 20th before the fire is fully extinguished, as a 2-week-old rim fire is still growing. So far, the blaze has covered some 920 square kilometers or 350 square miles. Officials also say the current precipitation in the air is expected to slow the flames from advancing further. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
In what is being seen as one of the largest corporate transactions in world history, Britain's Vodafone has sold its 45% share in Verizon Wireless, giving the US telecom giant Verizon Communications complete control over the mobile network operator. With the $130 billion it will make from the sell-off, Vodafone plans to return some 40% to shareholders and direct a portion towards its high-speed mobile phone networks. Some $9 billion will be used for the 4G network development plan called the Project Spring. Vodafone also aims to expand its reach in the European market. 64-year-old American Diana Nyad has become the first person to swim from Cuba to Florida without the help of a shark cage. She arrived at the beach around 53 hours after she began her swim in Havana on Saturday. It was her 5th attempt to complete the 177-kilometer swim. She tried 3 times in 2011 and 2012, and she had also tried in 1978. Speaking to well-wishers and reporters upon her arrival at Key West, Nyad urged everyone to keep chasing their dreams. A strong tornado ripped through eastern Japan on Monday, injuring scores of people, destroying buildings and uprooting trees. Local authorities say at least 67 people were hurt in the northern city of Koshigaya alone. Footage aired by state-run broadcaster NHK showed homes destroyed, schools with shattered windows and damaged cars. Power supply was cut in some 30,000 households in the worst hit areas. The local fire department says it has prepared evacuation shelters and emergency supplies. Now, it's not every day that young promising conductors are given the reins to the Seoul Philharmonic Orchestra, but that's precisely what happened for 6 individuals recently. They also got the chance to learn from one of the best conductors in the world. Our cultural correspondent Park Ji-won has the details.
33-year-old Choi Soo-yeol is one of Korea's most promising young conductors, as proven through world competitions over the past few years. Now he's conducting Brahms Symphony No. 1 with members of the Seoul Philharmonic Orchestra. This is part of a conducting masterclass offered by Maestro Jang Myung-hoon, and Choi was one of the 6 conductors selected.
Of course, there must have been parts where it wasn't good enough, but I tried my best for the given 30 minutes to deliver the essence of Brahms that I interpreted.
It wasn't just aspiring Korean conductors taking part. One international participant also got a chance to learn from Maestro Jang.
I have heard this orchestra in a couple concerts before, and I'm very looking forward to work with them before I came all the way to Korea. And of course, we've get a chance to meet Maestro, and it's a great honor because I heard a lot about him. I've seen many of his concerts, but it's my first time I actually get to meet him.
The 6 participating conductors, all in their early to mid-30s, were recommended and selected because of their outstanding talents. However, from the perspective of Maestro Chang, they all have room to improve. From postures to the mindset of approaching the music, the 60-year-old shared his wisdom and personal anecdotes about how to draw the best sound by gathering the force of the orchestra.
What we are trying to do is help the younger ones have more opportunities to show themselves, which is the main difficulty for young conductors, that they do not have enough occasion to conduct the orchestra and to show what they can do. So that is the main purpose of this masterclass and project in the future.
This masterclass is part of the Seoul Philharmonic Orchestra's long-term project to nurture the musical talents of the next generation. The orchestra plans to continue trying to identify and nurture young talents over the course of next 10 years. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Some interesting images there. Kind of reminds me of the Boryong Mud Festival we have here in South Korea, but with paint, by the looks of things. Something you'd be interested in, Yusun?
Oh, not personally, but yeah, well, interesting to see.
Certainly, yes. Very colourful. Let's get a check on the weather now. It's pretty colourful out there. It's very sunny and all the leaves are shining nice and green. And it's a really wonderful early fall day. So let's get a check on the weather conditions with our weathercaster, Lee Ji-yeon, who is standing by at our weather centre. Good afternoon to you, Ji-yeon.
Well, hello there, Mark and Yusun. And it sounds like you guys are enjoying this early autumn-like condition.
Certainly. With the cooler temperatures, I see a lot of people now out and about in the streets on their bikes and rollerblades. Can we expect a similar kind of weather conditions today and tomorrow?
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying this early autumn-like condition because we're going to have this similar pattern for a while. And that means the outlook for today, weather condition will be continue to have clear and sunny skies with daytime highs in the upper 20s. So our afternoons will be still mild for a while. But even if it's quite sunny in the afternoon, the UV rays are less strong than they are in the spring and summer. So feel free to take a walk after lunch. Now, it could help you definitely refresh yourself for the afternoon ahead. Well, right now we are looking at clear skies for the central provinces, whereas down south there are some clouds rolling in, but it should gradually clear up towards the midday. Now, yesterday morning we saw a tropical storm Toraj forming west of Okinawa, and it's heading to the north to Japan. And there is a possibility of about 20% that the southern part of Korea and Jeju will be affected by Toraj later this week. But, you know, I'll be sure to give you an update on that. Now, tomorrow's weather will be a repeat of today's. We'll have a fair amount of sunshine throughout the day with a warm afternoon. With that, it's time to take a look at today's numbers. Now, the daytime highs are looking pretty high, but it's nice and breezy. So we'll get up to 28 degrees Celsius, that's 82 degrees in Fahrenheit. And the afternoon highs in Daegu and Gwangju will be 29 and 30. And Busan will get up to 27 with a good amount of sunshine. Now, let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju and Daejeon will be in the upper 20s, while Dokdo and Mount Kumgang remain in the low 20s. Now, the temperature difference between day and night is pretty wild, so make sure to dress accordingly to keep you warm. That's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for our viewers around the world. That's all I have for you today. Enjoy your lunch break and have a wonderful rest of the day. Now back to Mark and Yusan in the studio.
Well, thank you ever so much, as always, Jian, for your wonderful weather report there. And those are the stories we're following at this hour.
Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday here in Seoul, and we'll be back at the same time tomorrow at noon.